Hello friend, my name is Alice Turner and if you don't know me, I am an artist, a lino cut printmaker and painter based in Wiltshire in the southwest of England. And I actually only recently turned to analogue, sort of traditional art media again recently in my 40s, because throughout pretty much all of my career I was working primarily in digital art. So I've been an artist all my life, just working in traditional analogue media up until about the age of 19, 20, I guess maybe, when I went to university. And I quite quickly after graduation started working purely in traditional media, purely in digital media. I still kept all my traditional materials with me because I was really keen to keep that craft alive, I suppose. But for all kinds of quite complicated, also emotional and personal reasons, I gradually sort of divorced myself from traditional art and really just went full on digital, working in multimedia production and digital content design, interactive design, all that kind of jazz. I won't bore you to tears with all the whys and wherefores of that here now, because I already made a video about it recently, which should be popping up somewhere here, maybe over there, or if not, it will be in the show notes. So yeah, if you do want to understand a little bit more about all those emotional sort of cut and thrust of why sometimes we leave the things that we love that give us the most validation, it can feel like an act of self-harm sometimes when we do that. But yeah, that's a different story, I think, for another time. What I really wanted to talk to you about in this video was how it occurred to me recently that the last time I produced a painting on canvas, the last time I actually sat down and spent hours working on a piece of physical art that was just to have on my wall and have something nice, was, you can actually see him up here, it's the Wyson. Let me just grab him for you so you can see. Okay, so whilst I was trying to keep my traditional skills alive through all this time, the last painting I produced was this one. Like I say, it's a Wyson, it's a European bison, and this is acrylic on canvas. And the signature and the date on it, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little bit dull now because it was actually sat in my garage for at least 7 or 8 years, gathering dust and a little bit of mold up there. That's nice. Anyway, this was 2012 when I painted this. It's now 2025, so I think that's 13 years, is it? Sorry, typical arty kid, I still can't do mental arithmetic. But either way, this was a long time ago. So let me just put him back home where he'll be happier. Okay. So yeah, that was a long time ago. And for all this time, I have also been carrying around this. It looks like a briefcase because essentially that's what it is. This is a plein air box easel. So it's designed primarily for if you want to do landscapes, working outside, so you can just carry all your materials around with you. They're really, really useful. They're also very useful even if you don't paint outside, and I don't really like creating art plein air outside. Even though I love being out in nature, but when I'm out in nature I want to enjoy it and absorb it. I find if I do try to sit down and just doing a sketch, if you're all on your own, you just have the place to yourself, you find bugs start landing on the page and zipping around. It's a bit like wasps always find a way to ruin every picnic. They will also ruin every sketching session, at least mine anyway, guaranteed. Or if you're in a public space, people insist on coming up and talking to you, and I'm it's great that they want to engage in that way, but I'm really quite shy and introverted, and sometimes it's not the best experience for me when I'm drawing, for people, coming up and asking me to justify myself in some way. Sorry, I digress. That's a little bit of a side ramble. But yeah, this basically still contains a lot of the original paints that I used to create this guy. All of, what did we say it was, 13 odd years ago. So when I recently found that I had this need to create traditional art again, I wanted to draw and paint and print and sculpt and carve and do all kinds of stuff. I'm so done with digital. I'm so sick of it. Yeah, I will still continue to do it. It's still an amazing craft and technology in and of itself, but they are very different disciplines. And right now, I need this. So one of the things that I am very passionate about is reducing all the waste, basically, in my personal life, in my creative life, in my professional life. And so if I'm actually going to practice what I preach and live by my values, that means I need to gradually work my way through all of the various paints and inks and other bits and bobs that we still have in here. And when I first opened this up and started playing around with the acrylic paints that are in there, I had very low expectations. Excuse me. I had very low expectations of the materials themselves. I thought some of these must be absolutely solid. They must have completely separated out into their constituent parts. And also, I was a little bit scared of that experience of sitting down and painting something again after all this time, because ever since I was, as far back literally as I can remember, back to like very, very small, 2-3 years old, I was just defined as that girl who can draw and paint really well. It was the only thing that I was really, really good at. And going back to that after all these years, maybe I was scared that I'd found that I'd lost that thing that really made me me. That might sound weird, or a little bit egotistical, maybe, I don't know. But hopefully some of that makes sense. And if it does resonate with you, please do let me know in the comments. So let's open this up, shall we? And have a look at what we're actually going to be working with. Okay, so I've just swiveled the camera around for a moment so that we can see the contents of this Pandora's box of crap. These sponges are more useful for illustration, I have to say, and working with, I actually use these for smearing chalk across a page. Some of these paints are ones that I've picked up more recently. They're not all 10+ years old. I actually didn't mean to get this one, the gallery. It's more like student quality acrylic paint. I mean, it's okay, it's good. It's just a little bit runny, I would say. Similarly, these System 3s, these are some of the old ones, like the really 13+ year old ones. They're not the best. They are super runny, I have to say. The colour is also just maybe a little bit insipid, perhaps. I don't know if that's because they are just the cheapest sort of student quality paints that I could get. I'm not particularly flush with cash, if I'm honest, and sometimes you just got to go for whatever your wallet will allow. But they've done the job, and don't know if give it a little bit of a squidge there. You can see they still flow pretty well, so I'm working on using those up. This ultramarine, if I unfold that a little bit, again, it's the System 3. These ones are a little bit of a step up though. This one was absolutely horrible after its 10 plus years of sitting in here. It's really grainy, but I've been using it up as much as I can just for laying the groundwork for my meadowscape paintings, because those are meant to be quite grainy images. And actually I do mix a coarse grain medium in when I'm working on those. So yeah, it works all right for that. Some of the other materials I want to be working with now though are these Winsor & Newton inks. Don't know if you can see that one there. I've only got a small selection. I've got 2 blues, 2 yellows, and I did have 2 browns. However, one of the browns had actually exploded kind of within its box. I still kept them all in their little boxes just to keep them all neat when they're in the easel. And yeah, I couldn't get it open. And this one has also kind of, it hasn't quite exploded to the same extent as the other one, but yeah, I can't shift it. So I'm gonna go see if I can find some pliers or an adjustable spanner just to, yeah, that's not coming off. So I'm gonna try and find a nice sort of watercolor style image that I can finish with these inks, maybe, just to use them up. And in the same vein, I do have these other watercolors. These are gouache, again, Winsor & Newton. I tend to default either to Winsor & Newton or Daler & Rowney for my materials. Increasingly though, I do go for Daler & Rowney just because for me, they sort of hit the sweet spot between the quality of the materials and the price point. But yeah, good old Winsor & Newton are also very good. But again, I've got 2 blues, 2 yellows, 2 reds. Where's the other one? There we go. And these are all still pretty much full. I do have, yeah, there's a slightly larger tubes of black and white. So these again, let's have a look at the white. They're all kind of, yeah, they're all pretty much full, and I can feel if I give them a little pinch, there's still some give in there. I don't want to just squirt paint everywhere, but you can see the white has kind of separated a bit. And yeah, it feels like there's just like this solid plug of material that's stuck in the neck there. So I might need to do a little bit of care on these to try and unblock them if they're not flowing properly. But I don't want to just throw any of this stuff away. I do want to use it, even if the stuff I end up using it for is not particularly great quality. I think it will still be worth it just to give these materials a new lease of life, I guess. And speaking of new leases of life, I'm using this exercise as an opportunity to do something a little bit different with my artwork. Because normally the work that I produce is naturally very graphic and quite dark, and it's edgy both in a literal sense, in that a lot of it is lino cut printing, which has all these very hard edges to it, and also edgy possibly in a figurative sense, in that all the work that I produce has a a slightly sort of, I guess, political element to it. And I don't want to say that out too loud because I don't feel like I'm a particularly political animal. But art certainly gives me a chance to, I suppose, give voice to all those things that I feel like I can't talk about to a wider audience or articulate in the way that I would like to. So yeah, there's always a small sort of act of rebellion or some kind of dark statement or a kind of sadness behind most of the things that I create, and that's very cathartic, and it's important, I think, to create work like that. But for this, I'm just going completely soft girl on it and just drawing some studies of these beautiful roses that my lovely partner's parents gave me for my birthday, and we've got them stood downstairs at the time of making this video in a carafe full of water. So just doing a still life like this of, you know, something that is just beautiful to look at and not motivated by anything else other than I want to sit down and paint something pretty. When I was younger, I would have thought that was just so vapid and vacuous, and you know, real artists need to be all hard and edgy and hardcore and all the rest of it. But now I'm appreciating more and more as I get older and softer in my old age how, you know, the truth is, a lot of that kind of sentiment, I think, was, and still is, partly motivated perhaps by a kind of insecurity, perhaps in me personally, in a sense that, you know, I needed to be very tough very early on. And I've also always had this thing where I feel like I can't stand stereotypes, and I felt like I was almost being shoehorned into a lot of them when I was a kid. And you know, the truth is, I have both sides to my personality. You know, when I was a little girl, I had a room that was full of dinosaurs and action figures and dragons, and I loved metal t-shirts and stuff. But you know, that indulged my sort of my gothy, edgy, slightly metalhead side. But my room was also completely decked out in pink, and I loved My Little Ponies and unicorns and dragons and rainbows and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think I've denied that soft, sort of feminine side of myself quite a lot because, yeah, it's hard to say why. And I realise I'm slightly rambling off script a little bit with this stuff. But essentially, I've just used these watercolour pencils to mark out where I want the basic colour to go in this study. And now I'm just creating some swatches with these ancient inks to see how they perform before I go in and actually start mixing some colours with the gouache. And I'd say with the gouache paints, the white had a few little grainy blebs in it, but a quick bit of mixing with the brush and the other paints here just smoothed it all out. And the others are perfectly creamy and just beautiful to use. Here I'm just mixing some cadmium red on the left with a little bit of the yellow ink, I think, in there, just to shift it slightly more towards that coral, not quite orange kind of red. And then towards the right of the palette, I've got magenta, just mixed with the white in higher and lower concentrations for that beautiful rose pink that is just oh so very gorgeous, I have to say. yeah, I'm the kind of person who normally with roses, I like white roses and yellow roses. I find the pink and the red ones sometimes are a little bit much for me. They can be a little bit frou-frou, but again, there's also that really effervescently girly side to me that quite likes a bit of frou-frou and a bit of rinky-dink pink here and there, you know? So yeah, I'm enjoying just indulging this side of myself a little bit more with this exercise and getting to know these media again. I'd say the watercolour pencils, these are also very ancient, but they're indestructible watercolour pencils. They will live forever and love you forever, provided you take good care of them. Until you use them up, of course, at which point you will have to replenish them. But yeah, they give me that lovely balance between the hard edges and then the flowing colours, that sort of control on the one side and then just liberation on the other as soon as you add the water to the page and the colours just animate in front of you. And the effect is really wonderful to see. So I am pretty happy with this one now. I'm just going to remove this page from my sketchbook to give it a chance to dry. I will need to trim it down. Because it's just a piece in my sketchbook, I didn't really centre it on the page very well, but I really like it, so I'm going to try and trim it down, and maybe this will make a nice little keepsake for someone somewhere. But I also have this view of the roses, which I drew from the top as a plan view, so it's exactly the same subject matter but from a different angle, looking down on the flowers and through the glass, so you can't actually see the carafe that they're sitting in. And I'm going to try and be a bit freer with this one. I'm not using my watercolour pencils this time to guide me. I'm just going to enjoy drawing essentially with my gouache in the first instance over the pencil sketch that I've done. And I'm sure there'll be many people who will say, oh, you shouldn't be working in this way, you should lay the ground colour first and then do the line work over the top. I don't know if I like shoulds in art. I don't know if they have much of a place here. Certainly not in a piece like this, which is all about just exploring a side of myself that I've denied for a long time, because I guess all through my teens, my 20s, my 30s, it was just all go, go, go. You know, I had to work really hard to earn a living, to try and get the kind of quality of life that I felt I deserved, to have security, to maybe one day be able to afford my own home and go travelling like other people seem to be able to do way younger than me. And yeah, just finding with every stage just how hard it was to claw my way out of sometimes very dire, difficult situations. And now I know it felt like for a long time everything was some kind of a fight, some kind of a battle that I had to be in, and I'm not a confrontational person at all. I'm a striver and a workhorse. I think I've got a pretty strong work ethic. But the truth is, my life now, I work from home, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. So I don't have nightmarish commutes. I work with lovely colleagues, and I get to just kind of sit at home on evenings and weekends with my partner and my cats and our plants and just chill. And that's really all I want out of my life right now. So if you take nothing else away from this video, I hope it's this message that it's okay to soften up and loosen up and just be a little bit loose around the edges. Enjoy that softness and invite some gentleness into your life, and understand that it's okay to be sensitive and cut yourself a bit of slack and take a break from time to time. I know that it's scary allowing yourself that sensitivity and that softness, because it can make you feel very vulnerable, and that's maybe, I realise, why I've avoided it for so long, because I felt I couldn't really allow that vulnerability. But I think within that willingness to be vulnerable and be sensitive, there is great strength and bravery in that as well. That is a form of courage. Well, I do hope that this video has been useful to you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and drawing and painting with me. I hope that I'll get to spend some more time with you again soon. Until then, take good care of yourself and those you love. Bye now. Take care. Bye bye.